everyone, and welcome to another vlog for the Exodus 7 to 12 KJV project. This week I got to a lot and I'm super thankful for that. So I'm going to run as fast as I can through these just to get most of it covered. Basically a lot of rendering happened this week, so I don't have a lot as in terms of news items, but I do have quite a few things to show you guys, so let's get into it. So last week, after posting the vlog, I got some amazing feedback about specifically the first opening part where I showed you guys that trailer thing, and he suggested that I'll put all this stuff in the post. He suggested that that I shorten the zoom, in other words, make it a lot faster, and if possible, that I make the eyebrows more pointed, as well as zoom in closer on his face, Pharaoh's face, which I thought was a cool idea, but unfortunately it meant re-rendering the shot, the whole shot. I mean, it's not just a question of re-rendering this section, it's a question of re-rendering all of this back to there. So I couldn't apply that one, especially because of the 3D aspect. You see, you can't just zoom in on it, unfortunately. But I did apply what I could, in the sense that the zoom is at least twice as fast. So it goes on the heartbeat. The first heartbeat zooms in, the second heartbeat stops. So it looks like this. Absolutely awesome. So what I also did to try and add some emphasis on the eyes was to put like a light band over the eyes, but I think it fails because it's too zoomed out. It looks kind of weird. So if I want to do it, I have to pick a bigger area, like just focusing on his face or whatever, but you already focus on his face, so I think it's kind of excessive, but I'll show you what that looks like as well. It's kind of stupid. I don't know. I'm still thinking of keeping it, but honestly and truly, it doesn't feel like it adds any value. It actually feels like it's distracting. It's like, what's that light over his eyes? You know, if you have to ask, it's already an issue. So let's just get rid of it. And this is what it looks like without it. Okay, that's without it. And that's with it. It actually adds a little something to it. I don't know, I might just make it broader. So I don't think I'll remove it completely. I think I'll just modify it a little bit. So I also applied something that he suggested, and that was that the first heartbeat he still be visible, and the second heartbeat that it cut to black, creating also a sort of you could say a disharmony, with a visual disharmony with the audio. So it's still on, and on the second beat goes off. Then we have God saying, and when Pharaoh shall speak unto you. And then we have the first shot for this week, which is show a miracle for you. And there we go. Now this one was a bit of a problem. I'm going to play it for you guys. You just can see it.
Show a miracle for you. Then thou show a miracle for you. Then thou
I love that shot. That's so cool. I had to actually redo this one because of depth issues, as well as the fact that his mouth was kind of weird on the M for miracle and the F, and also his mouth was too closed, causing this line over here to evaporate almost completely. So it almost looked like he didn't have lips at all, except when he spoke. You can still see that let me just switch to full render. You can still see that it's very limited, but it's at least there. So anyway, I want to show you guys what the depth map looks like for this shot. So this is what the depth map looks like for this shot. Initially, it did not look like this. It just had this flat kind of appearance to it. More like this, not just like this. It was more like Pharaoh was white and the background was dark. And it did not make for an interesting 3D shot at all. The only way to get an interesting 3D shot visually, where you would actually notice the 3D effect, at least to a certain extent, is to sharpen the 3D even on a simple object like Pharaoh, for example. So I'm going to show you the difference between the two by using a grayscale anaglyph. They just tend to show better in video than the color ones do. So we set it on 70. Now this is what it looks like with the sharpened 3D map, and this is what it looks like with the normal one. Yeah, you can see it kind of looks like a cutout. I'm going to increase the strength so you guys can see it even more clearly. So I'm going to set it to like 150. You can see it looks like a cutout as opposed to the background. It's not an interesting 3D shot. It's more interesting if there's distinction between his features, because I mean he is the focus of the shot. So now it's much better with the modified one, which looks like this. I want to see what it looks like at 150. I think it might be a little extreme. Yeah, it's a little extreme. You can see his face kind of distorts like way too far. Anyway, so I had to do this one twice. I was unhappy with the hand movement, and I was unhappy with his mouth movement, and I was unhappy with the fact that his mouth was way too close, cutting off that freestyle line. So all of that had to be redone. I also modified his arm movement because it kind of just went up and settled again. It needed a little bit more, flex is the wrong word. It had to have more, it had to feel more natural. Like you would respond if you put your arm back down. You know, it felt way too plastic. So back onto the edit, we have the next shot, and actually this week I finished 3 shots. Just want to, there we go. So the next one is where Moses tells Aaron to throw down the rod. Now this week I had to record Moses' dialogue, and that was quite an interesting thing. Moses specifically says that he is slow of tongue and he doesn't have eloquent speech, which means that you can interpret it as some sort of speech impediment, but honestly and truly, I just think he wasn't a great public speaker at all. Sort of like I was in my first tutorials. Absolutely awful. So what I did was I went for a very delayed, very drawn out, very lazy kind of tongue, and almost even a lack of being able to emote properly, you know. And with the voice change, it also added sort of like a lisp. So it sounds like, you could say it sounds like bad acting with a lisp. That's basically what it sounds like. So I'm going to play you that.
Then thou shalt say unto Aaron,
Take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh.
show him.
I see I'm all into the hand movements this time around. You might have noticed this little chair over here. Look at what it does. I'm going to put it over here because it moves this way. Look at how it flickers. This is because of a bug in Blender's particle system. What happens is if you use the particle system to distribute objects, if you turn off random to make sure that you don't have objects over each other on vertices, it still has a tendency to do it anyway, at least with one item. And unfortunately, you don't have control over which item it can be, at least not as far as I know. And that means that some items may flicker like this. And I thought that this didn't happen in the previous shots, but it actually did. If you look at, I'm just going to go back to that shot where Moses and Aaron actually went in to speak to Pharaoh. I'm going to turn this off so you can see it clearly. I'm just going to take it back a section. Pay attention to the chair almost at the front. It's not that one, it's the second one. That one. You can see, look at that. So unfortunately, it flickers anyway. It's not that I want it to flicker, but unfortunately it does. You can see. I'm going to see how it changes color. It's not supposed to change color. It's not good. It's really not good. So what I tried to do is I tried to reduce the amount of particles as opposed to vertices and still leave off random and all that kind of stuff. But honestly and truly, it just changes which one flickers. So I can't do anything about it, unfortunately. But I tried. I really, really tried. So unfortunately, we do have a flickering chair. It's just the way it goes. So I'm just going to switch back to 25%. So don't focus on the chair. Focus on Moses and Aaron. I know having said that, you'll now focus on the chair, but, try anyway. So I'm going to show you both.
Show a miracle for you. Then thou shalt say unto Aaron,
Take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh.
Show a miracle.
I love that shot. It's so cool. Now, one thing I didn't do in Esther was focus on hand animation. You can see I did do some of it with the king tapping on the table. But if you look further on, you'll see that in most of it, I didn't do any finger animation. Only the hand moved. It's sort of like a glove. You can see it with, you can see it on the screen right now with Haman explaining his thing. You can see the hand is super, super stiff. And when I look back on it now, it frustrates me tremendously. But look at how much better it is if the hand actually opens up and comes back and relaxes. It's just so much more natural if the fingers actually move. It's just insane. I mean, it makes such a big difference. And look at Moses' hand. It looks completely natural when he does that. You can see that the fingers are closed and then they open as he lowers his hand. Makes such a big difference. And the same with, look at Aaron's body language. It's not just his head that moves. His torso moves, his arms move, his shoulders move. Very subtle movements, but it just makes his head nod more natural. Look at that, just like that. You can see the whole chest area adjusts as he acknowledges that he's supposed to cast the rod down. And that brings us to the next shot for the week, which is Aaron preparing to cast down the rod. Now, this is one of my favorite shots, I have to say. Even with whatever else still needs to be done, I think this has to be one of my favorites. I think it might be a little exaggerated, but you get the point. So I want to show you what this looks like first, and then I'm going to play it. So what happens is Aaron turns back to Pharaoh with a determined look, and then he realizes that he has to depend on God's ability to do it, and God prepares him to cast down the rod, basically. And he acknowledges that he can only do it through God, and then God says, and it shall become a serpent, which was a line that I missed. Can you believe it? So I had to re-record that this week, or record it this week. And then, of course, there's a sudden jump back to his face because he's ready and he's got the confidence to believe that what God said he will do. And then he throws it, but I haven't done the throw just yet. So this will be the first part of the throw, and yeah. So now I'm going to play it.
And it shall become a serpent.
So cool. You should see it in 3D as well. So I'm going to show you the frames. So now I can show you guys what the frames look like. So first of all, you can see that his hair is kind of over his face. I'm not going to use the cursor to indicate these because, quite frankly, it doesn't work. It's so unfortunate that the compression destroys the anaglyph effect by creating a lot of noise and ghosting. Look at the hand pop. There we go. And then it settles. Those sorts of little details make a huge difference to the quality of the animation. If you pay close attention, you can see that I modified the depth map to have the eyebrows a little bit more forward than the eyes, just to give that sense of, you're really in someone's face. It's really, really cool. So he's not physically glowing. I'm just using the glowing to illustrate the point that, number one, God is behind him. You can see that it's not him glowing. It's the light coming from behind him. And he raises his hand to also indicate where his power comes from. And God speaks over him that it shall become a serpent, and boom. It's about to go down. Oh, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so last week I showed you guys about a little program I use for super resolution that I believe the Lord wants me to use to generate a 4K version of Exodus. So the goal is to make a 2D and a 3D version. But I have to show you guys properly because of the regular interpolation. You kind of lost the increase in quality last week. I saw that after I uploaded the video and I was like, no. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys that again. So just taking down the excessive parts so it runs a little faster, I'm going to show you what an upscale looks like by making this area full screen to make sure that everything is clear, and I'm going to remove the interpolation for this frame over here as well so that it doesn't resize it with that fuzziness. If it doesn't work this week, I'm just letting the results speak for themselves. If you have a 4K display, you'll see it. If you don't, you'll still enjoy it. So I'm going to set it to 400%. I just want to pick a nice difficult part. Let's go to one of the eyes. You see, this is a good example. Now you can see how blocky everything is. So I want you to see, look at that. This is what it does. You can see that it tries to smooth out these lines. Now, obviously, this is 400% increase, which is probably 8K. But I would not be upscaling it that far, so it won't create this heavily stepped effect. You'll see this difference, which is still a very significant difference. Okay, so I just want to, let's pick a more, is there even a more difficult area? I don't know. I'm just looking for an area to show you guys what it looks like. I think the eye is the best part. Okay, so we're going to focus on this area of the eye over here. You can see it's now perfectly rounded. Just like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the effect and then turn it back on. So this is what it looks like if you just use normal interpolation. You can see over here, and then this is what happens if you turn on super resolution interpolation. Ta-da! It doesn't just thin the lines out. You have to look at what it does with the lines. For example, I'm going to zoom in quite a bit. See what it does with this line. It straightens it out. Now sometimes it struggles, as you can see with this one over here, but it does a very, very good job of upscaling it. I'm not dissatisfied with it at all. So that's just to show you guys better what it actually does. I think last week kind of failed because Blender interpolated the the little blockiness that we see over here before it adjusts it. So anyway, that's just one of those things. So another thing that happens often is the compositor can run multiple times. The reason that happens, as far as I can tell from the stuff that the Lord led me with yesterday is let's say you have your render layers. Okay, let's say we have 3, because that's what I had in the other one that I saw this in. I removed one because it wasn't necessary, but you get the point. So you have a viewer node, you have a composite node, and you have, say, a file output node. I'm not going to add another file output node. I'm just using it as an example. So let's say you have a different output going to a different node. The compositor, let's just make it a little bit more clear. Okay, so these two mix. Now, doing it like this will sometimes cause the compositor to run multiple times. And that's not just from the points where they differ, it's from the start. So you're going to lose minutes in terms of your render time, and it's really not good. It's really not good. Whatever you can do to minimize the amount of outputs you have, do it. It makes the compositing process a lot easier. So let's say you have a bunch of viewer nodes all over your compositor. Remove them. Any excessive nodes, remove it. Make it as efficient as possible and remove effects or things that don't add to the final result when you go for your final render, because it will slow you down. By removing one viewer node, I cut off an entire minute per frame for the shot where Aaron's eyes are zoomed in and it zooms out and he's got his hand up, all that kind of stuff. I saved an entire minute per frame on that one, which led to 4 hours. I saved 4 hours on that shot. So please, if you have multiple outputs in your compositing setups, get rid of as many as possible. Now, remember, it doesn't do multiple shots if you do this, because it's all the same output. There's no need to. It's only if you have a situation where you get different outputs going everywhere, like this. Or like, no, there we go, like that. This will cause it to run about 4 times, assuming these were file outputs and 1 viewer and 1 composite. So please just take that seriously. Don't waste your own time. It's unnecessary. Which it kind of makes me want to kick myself, because it meant that all the previous shots could have rendered a lot faster if the compositor was more cooperative. Could have saved myself probably in the region of over 20 hours. But no. So that's pretty much all the stuff for this week. I have a few other things in the post, so I advise you to go check that out. Have a great one, and God bless you.